This is Transqat, a safe space to stand. Transgender issues, queer people, respectful conversations. I'm host Clare McCarthy. Welcome to Transqat. There's a thread that connects our previous episode with this one. And to be honest, it's a little controversial in the community. It's this: who gets to tell trans stories? In the abstract, my answer is trans people, obviously, folks with lived experience. If you don't understand the importance of authenticity, go back and watch Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's, Laurence Olivier as Othello, or Michael Douglas in Behind the Candelabra. They're offensive because they're ill-informed and inauthentic. Trans people, like so many other marginalized groups, suffer when their only cultural representations are false, hateful stereotypes. If the character and the story are not informed by reality, well, then it's bound to be misleading. It increases bias and contributes to othering us. Now, in episode 102, I spoke with the director of a short film titled This Is Jan. I love the film, which you still have the opportunity to see via Transqat until December 6th. It was directed by Robert LaRiviere, a cisgender gay man. Our conversation included his collaborator and producer, Brooklyn Campaign, whose lived experience as a trans woman informed Robert's decisions as writer and director. Today's episode features Todd Rennebohm, a podcaster from Saskatchewan. He has just released an 8-episode podcast series called Transgression. He frames it as an exploration of the so-called trans agenda. I was using air quotes there. Todd, a cis-het white guy, is very transparent about having no firsthand knowledge of trans life or queer issues. He approaches the subject as if he were an investigative journalist, uncovering and sharing information as he goes along. Now, let me be unequivocal. I think this series is worth listening to. It addresses politics, religion, healthcare, colonization, masculinity in remote rural areas. It includes many, many voices from the trans community in his province. Todd most certainly did his due diligence before creating the content. And if you're not familiar with the term Two-Spirit, Episode 5 addresses where Indigenous Canadian people fit under the trans umbrella, and I thought that was spectacular. But there are some cringy moments. Moments when Todd reaches for a joke that doesn't land well. Moments when sound effects distract from the gravitas of the subject matter. Things that I would have left on the cutting room floor. But if you are able to let those go right on by, to quote the great Canadian songwriter and poet Leonard Cohen, I think you will find an awful lot to enjoy in Transgression. So if you haven't watched This Is Jan yet, go do it, and then listen to the conversation with Robert and Brooklyn. Take the time to listen to Todd's podcast before making up your mind one way or the other. Give the subject some thought. Who gets to tell trans stories? And then make up your own mind. Safe space, respectful conversations, better understanding. That's what Transqat's all about. So, Todd, I'm looking behind you here at the Bunny Hugs mental health logo there. On a scale of 1 to 10, where is today for your mental health, would you say?
Well, I'd probably say an 8, which is pretty good for me. I'm super busy today, so I don't have time to, dwell on anything. As you know, I'm a little late to the interview even, but yeah, I'd say an 8.
I don't think I'm quite at an 8 level, but
give me an hour. So I'm Todd Rennebohm. I'm a Canadian.
You're still welcome here. I just want you to I want to be very clear about that, right? We do not discriminate.
And you're welcome here.
Thank you.
I started advocating for mental health and addictions about 9 years ago after a suicide attempt and a stay at a treatment center. So I've been sober almost exactly 9 years. And then, COVID hit. I wasn't able to do a lot of public speaking or engagements and stuff. So then I started the podcast as everyone else did in COVID times. So that was about a little over 4 years ago. And about a year ago, I was wanting to, I don't know, do something different, but keep it podcasting. So I wanted to do like a documentative, investigative kind of series. I had, lots of different options of topics and people I've met and ways I could have taken it. But here in Saskatchewan, which is the province I live in Canada, it's like a state in the States.
Mhm.
They had come up with it's called Bill 137, and then they called it Parental Bill of Rights, which is a bullshit name. So
Yeah.
it's basically saying that trans kids actually all kids under the age of 16 and under cannot use their chosen pronouns and names without parental approval in school. And as we know, a lot of kids are schools their safe place. And then there was also a provincial election. A friend of mine's two kids were outed by our premier, which is like a governor. And I also have a nephew that's trans that my family struggles a bit with the whole thing. So, I
Mhm.
mean, not my wife and I, but like other family members. So I kind
Are
of,
they, sorry to jump in, but are
that's okay.
is the stumbling block religion or something else?
Something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not mega, but they're not liberal either. So um, yeah. So it was actually the election thing when the two kids were outed that I was almost like I felt obliged to do it. Like I almost felt compelled. Like, okay, this is a clear sign that this is an issue and that um, I should maybe do this. And it was incredible. So I took about 6 or 7-ish months to record and get all the research and the editing and everything. And um, yeah, I learned and grew a lot over those 6 months. So it's been a
The
complete honor.
research is there. It's so evident, and you bring in this great, not only a lot of voices, but a variety of voices. I'm sort of jumping around here. I do want to come back to 137 and
Sure. Yeah.
Jared Clark's speech, which was amazing.
Hmm.
But you have authorities and you have legal experts and you have two-spirit folks bringing in the indigenous culture, but you also have, and they were just adorable, Quinn and Ace, uh,
Yes.
which which was a bit of a balance because they're very entertaining, but they're kids, and
Hmm.
so all of your research comes across really clearly in this 8-part
Oh, good.
documentary.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. And especially like when it came to editing, like I didn't edit along the way. Like I collected all the data, then I started editing.
Mm.
And just before I started to edit, I mean, I felt like when I first started recording, I was like, oh, let's see what happens. Yada, yada, yada. But by the end of it, I was like, I did feel very, I felt like I had a huge responsibility on my shoulders to get this right. I made lifelong connections with some of the people I interviewed. And so then that there was more skin in the game by the end of it than there was at the beginning of it. So, yeah, before editing, I was like, I really want to get this right. At the same time, I want to still have that same vibe and tone of me hosting because I am kind of a silly guy, I guess, at times. So I wanted, it was a bit of a balancing act that being me,
Yeah,
but also letting people know that, this is this is yeah, people are losing their lives
yeah,
because of
yeah,
these stupid decisions and how the decisions came about and how they were forced. And yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it was my honor. Yeah, yeah, it was such a beautiful, for me, it was such a beautiful process. Um, and yeah, I'm just extremely humbled.
I was very pleased that you reached out. That because we had an initial conversation where we were both talking about the fact that having a straight cis white guy looking into this brought a set of challenges. But I am very glad you brought this show to my attention. I am very, very glad that
Okay.
we've got a chance to talk more about it in depth, because I think
Thank you.
people should be listening to this.
Thank you. Yeah. And I didn't know that going into it, really.
Yeah.
I actually thought, yeah, I was a little paranoid that, oh my God, am I poking a bear that doesn't want to be poked, and I'm going to be canceled like I'm anybody anyway to be canceled. But and then after it's a lot like the bathroom issues. It's like, oh, we should be nervous because of trans people. That's how I felt. And then you quickly have a conversation with people, and it's like, no, trans people are way more uncomfortable using washrooms than
And
than
it's not just a matter of comfort. It is that a trans person in a bathroom that is not of their choosing is at much greater risk of harassment and violence and rape and on down the line. I
100%.
mean, infinitely, exponentially more so than they are likely to be a threat.
100%, 100%. Yeah. And that's what I quickly learned was like, oh, I don't have anything to worry about interviewing trans people as a cis person. They have way more to worry about because some of the people I did talk to have been interviewed before by cis people, and it was a bit of a bait and switch thing, and they made them look stupid, and so
So
people were
they
a little paranoid at first to talk to me.
and have they reached out since the show's been airing? That
Yeah, well, kind of. I kept in contact with a lot of the people,
yeah.
and like as things progressed, like, hey, this season, this episode's out now, and and some of them are people I knew before anyway, and I mean,
Yeah.
there's only a million people in this entire province, so we
Yeah.
also have. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I
the
was
trans community especially. It's a small community, so.
let's go back to 137 though, because that's really at the
Mhm.
heart of your show. So Bill 137 is passed saying that, as you say, teachers and administrators in schools are obliged to use birth names and birth pronouns. Also, if I'm remembering correctly, that the schools are no longer allowed to bring in third-party educators.
Right, right. That's
What's
including like Planned Parenthood and.
Yeah, and you do a remarkable, I forget which episode it is, in terms of statistics as to why that is a horrific idea, uh, completely separate from the trans or LGBTQ issues. Why that, in terms of the statistics and the demographics in Saskatchewan,
We have like the highest amount of teen pregnancies, HIV, um, 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 sexual partner abuse, like all, and so you'd think you would want to, correct that by having as many educators as possible, but no.
for folks who might not be aware of this, when you say that teachers and administrators, guidance counselors are no longer able to refer to kids by their preferred name or pronouns,
Without parents' permission.
there it is.
Yeah.
Where's the risk in that? What what does that do to those kids?
Using proper pronouns, or not, sorry, not proper pronouns, but preferred pronouns and preferred um, name, that is in a lot of ways a life-saving decision. I mean, it sounds basic, as you know, as a trans person, it's hard enough to transition socially, but then to like not be validated and have people, yeah, not validate you really. It can send young people spiraling that are already having issues spiraling anyway. And a lot of these kids that don't open up to their parents about this, there's a good reason why they're not, a
Right.
lot of parents don't understand. A lot of parents are, yeah, well, I hate to say it, but MAGA or Trumpy and or
Yeah.
religious or whatever, and so they don't feel safe doing it. And school should be a safe place. It shouldn't be a place that's policed by teachers to make sure parents get what they want out of their child. I talked to more people than they're actually in the series, but a lot of teachers I talked to told me that they don't follow these rules. Like, they just let the kids be kids. And and I mean the government too, they come up with this bill and then they leave it up to the individual school divisions to police it. So a lot of school divisions just completely ignore it. And a lot of the teachers just ignore it because they know damn well, like, this is and Saskatchewan has like one of the smallest populations of trans people in Canada. So and how it all came about, it's just such bullshit that it just, as one person that left a review said, it's rage inducing.
Yes. Yes, it is. Because behind it is not, as you lay out, is not concern for the kids. It is not this. We have the same faux parents' right movement here in the States as well. It has nothing to do with that. It is politics, pure and simple. And you lay this out. This episode of Transqat is sponsored by Fox and Feather Healing Arts Services. Some experiences and emotions are just too big for words alone. In art therapy, you use art materials and the creative process to invite healing, express emotions, and experience spiritual connection. Fox and Feather in Guilford, Connecticut specializes in the treatment of eating disorders, trauma, anxiety, depression, and grief. They treat female-identifying clients and members of the LGBTQIA+ community, ages 12 and up. What sets this art therapy practice apart is their use of art as a form of magic and emotional alchemy. Call today at 860-575-4500 for your free 15-minute phone consultation. You can learn more and meet the team at foxfeatherhealingarts.com, or you can email at Sarah, SARAH, at foxfeatherhealingarts.com. Tell folks a little bit about who Scott Moe is and why he decided Bill 137 was the way to go, without swearing.
Oh, no swearing. Okay.
No. Because every time you brought up one of his actions, I just started letting loose a torrent of swears at my cats.
Oh no!
They were very confused.
Well, Scott Moe is our premier, who it's like a governor of a state. There's every 4 years there's an election, but for whatever reason, a couple of they're called MLAs. I'm not sure what they're called in the States, but people that represent the party that runs the government. A couple of them stepped down, or I don't know what happened. Some of them left. So then there's these by-elections. So they have to fill these positions. So halfway between elections, they had this little by-election. And I think there was 3 seats to be filled. All 3 were Sask party, which is Scott Moe's party. And it's a right-leaning party. But 2 of those seats were filled by the opposition, the NDP. So Scott Moe had some pressure to, like, the writing's a little bit on the wall. Okay, people aren't happy. Plus, a third brand new right-wing party came along during COVID. I can't remember the name of it right now. It doesn't matter. So then, there was some competition on the right, and
so you're splitting the vote on the right.
Yeah. So their votes are being split, and people are turning, leaning a little left. So right after that by-election, he decided to, instead of leaning a little to the left to grab those voters back, he full throttle went right. And next thing you know, this Bill 137, Parental Bill of Rights, I'm sure his mentor of sorts, Trump, and all the other right-wing lower states people, were a huge influence on that. And so he went with it. And the government wasn't even in session at that time. So he actually recalled the government back 2 weeks early, spending, I don't know how much money, bringing, all these representatives back to vote on this bill.
For this one issue.
There's been all types of issues in the past. There's never been an early sitting of the legislature, but for whatever reason, this was super important. um, and then, I mean, people were saying, this is it goes against the Charter of Rights in Canada. That episode where I talk about all this, it's kind of I know politics and legal stuff. It sounds boring, but I think I laid it out just right enough, and I talked to the right people to not make it boring. So I might be butchering it a bit, but anyway, there's this thing called the notwithstanding clause, which means governments can use this clause to like pass whatever bill they want, even if it's violating human rights issues, as long as they mention which human rights they're violating. And it's only temporary. It's only for 5 years, and then they have to look at it again. So it's, for emergencies. I can't think of a reason why there would be an emergency where you have to violate rights, but whatever. It's there. So he used this notwithstanding clause. So something the Saskatchewan government's never done, have an early sitting, or maybe I think they did have an early sitting, but it was like for flooding, or it was like some, actual important issues.
Something obvious. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. For whatever reason, trans children brought the government together early and used this notwithstanding clause that's never been used in Saskatchewan before. So it got passed. I mean, there's still court issues and stuff, and I go deeper into it. And even the Saskatchewan Human Rights Commission said this isn't right, and the head commissioner actually resigned at a protest. Who I actually speak with her in the series.
She was very eloquent. That was some great audio there. Yeah.
Yeah, she's amazing. And then about a month later, Scott Moe, the premier, got rid of everyone off the commission and replaced them with his own, whoever he wanted. It's one thing having a bill that gets passed and whatever, it's shitty. Oh, I swore.
That's good. You should.
Yeah. It's shitty, whatever, but it's done. It's legitimately done.
Yeah.
There was nothing legitimate about this for several reasons. And then we just had a provincial election not too long ago, and they won again, but barely. I tell you, man, sometimes it's rough living in a province that's, well, as you would know, living in a place where
right now in the States, we sort of look to the north and are just sort of hoping that things are better up there, because everything you're describing and more is happening down here, and it's depressing the hell out of me that that's not the case.
Well, it's for the most part it's Saskatchewan, Alberta. The rest of the country is a little more. I mean, when we say liberal up here, it's not a swear word. It just means there's a middle, right? It's like, there's a lot of gray area between Democrat and Republican. And luckily Canada has more than two parties. So, you're better represented. But for whatever reason, Saskatchewan, Alberta, they look down to Trump land and just love it. I mean, there's people, when Trump was talking about annexing Canada, taking it over, I mean, there's people like that want to do that here that have like protests or not protests and like what's it called, where you sign your name to
petitions. Yeah,
people are petitioning to like join the states around here, and I'm like,
please don't.
It's
elbows up.
Yeah, exactly.
The episode, it's towards the end, I want to say episode 7, which focuses on this just I think your comment used the right words, just rage-inducing outing of two 12-year-old trans kids. And these were not just random trans kids, but again, a very, very
depends who you talk to.
Political. So it just tell us a little bit about that story. What happened to Jared Clark's kids?
Scott Moe, during the provincial campaign, he made this claim that a parent called and was very upset that there was boys changing in the girls' change room in some small town, Saskatchewan. And I mean, if you live in a small town, you know what kids you're talking about. But not just that, some right-wing online media, quote unquote media, actually mentioned the father's name. So in essence outing these kids, right? And of course Scott Mose was like, oh, we didn't know whose kids it was, but as it turns out, the father that of these kids was one of the people that won one of the seats in that by-election from the opposition party. So I mean, really, what are the odds?
Complete coincidence, Todd. I don't know what you're talking about.
What are the odds? I mean, there's no proof, obviously, but it's very, very suspicious. And I mean, I don't mention this in the series, but I knew Jared before all of this, and when that happened, man, I was, oh, man, I can't think of the last time I was that livid.
Yeah.
At like a government, like I paced the house. I was fuming. And that was the real kicker. I'm like, oh my God, okay, I have to do the
This
series.
is, yeah.
And
Because at that point, and you pull that together really well in that once you get to that point, it's no longer an abstract thing that we're talking about. It's no longer transgender rights. It's
yeah,
two little kids who got screwed over by some
fully.
weaselly politician. And I tried doing a little research on this, but there's this trash hauling company that was part of
Oh
the
yeah, yeah.
what the hell was that? Just Bins.
So just bins, yeah, it's a business, I guess, in my city here, and they started off doing like memes, like local memes. So they would take pictures of local things, and it was really cute actually. It was to start off, and then for whatever reason they started like taking pictures of like homeless people and making fun of them and whatever. And so I was like, I left big long comments and I stopped following them. I was like, this is bullshit. Like making fun of like um people with addictions and stuff on the streets.
Yeah.
And then I guess things progressed to the point that they started going around to high schools taking pictures of kids that they assumed were trans and putting them on the internet and outing them. And you can't tell me again that if it wasn't for Scott Moe and what he did, it basically gave permission for anyone to like now it's trans kids are now fair game. And these are kids. I mean, these are fucking kids.
Because I mean, the damage done directly there is one thing, and it's horrible and it's unacceptable, but it also opens this family up to doxing and death threats and swatting and that whole MAGA repertoire of things that can destroy your life.
Yeah. Yeah. As a child, like, I mean, I was already had suicidal thoughts as a teenager, just being a regular teenager. I couldn't imagine being a trans teenager. And like, we didn't even have the internet when I was a kid. But,
Right. Yeah.
but yeah, to be put on like display like that for everyone to see. And I mean, when this happened, I was like, how is this not like international news? Like if a governor outed two kids in the States, it would be huge. And I talked to Jared before I did this series at all because I wanted to talk about the subject. And him and his family said like we will not be doing any interviews, like, and they never have because they're protecting the kids. So I had to walk this, but he did give me permission. He's like, a lot of it's public, like you can use whatever's out there already. So you have my blessing for that, but like we won't be a part of it. So it was tough walking this fine line of discussing this, but also not putting those kids in the spotlight again, and causing more trauma. It's
The
tough.
beauty of it for your show is that his speech, and I guess the only time he's addressed this publicly, his speech upon being inaugurated was so heartfelt and so eloquent, and it didn't need anything more. It carried so much weight, Todd.
Yeah, when I heard that speech, like there was tears streaming down my face. It's probably the most beautiful thing that's ever been said in that building, to be honest with you. I mean, I did cut some of it, like some of it was, it wasn't the whole speech, but all the good stuff was there. And because I mean, then he goes on to talk about political stuff, of course, but the way he addressed the people that did what they did and what happened, what his family was going through at the time. I mean, he was getting death threats and stuff. Like it's I'm getting upset.
Yep,
George is getting mad.
Let's shift it over to something more pleasant.
Great, sure, okay.
Some of the voices that you bring into this, though, along the way are really wonderful, and I want to go back to Ace and Quinn.
Oh God, they're fan favorite. Like the amount of people that have contacted me and said, "Who are these kids? They're amazing."
They were, and it's so there's just no filter on them. They were on point. They gave you all the things you needed, but there was no filter. It was just this. It was just like spending time with a teenager like that. It's like, yep.
Yeah. It was like, yeah, a mixture of that and just being profound at the same time.
It's November 12th as I record this. The U.S. House of Representatives is set to vote today on a bill to end the 43-day-long government shutdown. And you might well ask, did collaboration and compromise at long last win out over extremism? Is this proof that the system isn't as broken and hopeless as we'd feared? Nope. The Democrats caved. They just caved. Today's headline in The Onion says it best. Chuck Schumer helps pull Democrats back from brink of courage. The Don't Cave sticker is available in the Transqat store. It's just $4. Go to transqat.com and click that link to the store. Buy a bunch of them and slap them around your town to express your disappointment and disgust. Transqat, we stand. Even when they don't. You mentioned that you had done a number of conversations with folks at Pride events. Is that where you connected with them?
No, actually, I think it was Quinn that was kind of featured in a news article. And so then I kind of found him and his mom and reached out and I didn't even know Ace existed. And then, people run with ideas. And they're like, hey, you should also have my friend Ace on. I'm like, sure, whatever you want. So, yeah.
Let's do it.
Because, there was other families I tried to reach out to that I saw in articles or I heard about through friends that didn't want to be a part of the series, which, again, understandable.
Yeah.
But there's been families in rural Saskatchewan basically be chased out of town. So they have to, pick up their lives and move somewhere urban to just live.
The notion of being a parent is a hard job no matter what. And the idea of someone being put in a position of, look, you can either protect your kid or you can give up your home and your job and your whatever and move to something unknown that maybe is going to work out and maybe isn't, or, your kid's life is going to be at risk. And I'm just constantly in awe of the grace with which a lot of parents of trans kids handle that.
Yeah, same. I mean, there's some parents that just completely ignore the fact that their kids are trans, but to be that on board with it and to be that protective to completely, it's almost like they have political asylum. You almost need refugee camps in the cities not to saying that the city is that they don't find discrimination here too, but it seems to be a little better than the rural areas.
No, so I'm in Connecticut, and it's bills itself as a sanctuary state. So we do have families coming in from all of these states that have passed anti-trans legislation for exactly that reason, but we don't really have an infrastructure in place to support them. I mean, there are a lot of really good organizations and 501(c)(3)s that are trying, but we don't have anything in place where we can say, okay, you're going to come here, you're going to do X, Y, Z. And to be honest, our schools are no safer than anybody else's.
And the whole thing that drives me nuts is it's unnecessary. It's just politics and fear and bullshit.
Another voice that, as an ignorant American, I had never heard the name before, but Maven Maurer.
Oh, yeah.
Really impressive. And if with your permission, I might reach out and try to poach her for my show because
Sure.
I loved that piece.
Yeah. So Maven is a trans woman. And so Saskatchewan is a football loving. I mean, it is like the Texas of Canada when it comes to football. we have a small population. We don't have like a lot of professional sports, but we do have our football team. Both my grandpa and my great grandpa are former Saskatchewan Roughriders, so they played for them. So it's like it's a huge pride thing in my
Wow.
family. Like we are like Rough Rider royalty. And Maven, she is a former Saskatchewan Rough Rider, professional football player. She didn't play here for very long, but she did go throughout the league and played at a couple other teams that ended up winning championships. And she, I think, if I look, I think back, I think it was 2021, 22 when she decided, not decided, but I guess in a way you decide to transition, but she came
Yeah,
out, I guess, decided to come out,
right.
and transition. And, she was married with kids and all this, and her journey's been amazing. She is amazing. She's just a gorgeous spirit, gorgeous person. And if I'm going to be honest, she's a bit of a bombshell. She's a very, very fit, still works out. She's a
And
bombshell.
I can back that up in that, as someone who had never heard of, I'm not a sports person in general, certainly not a Canadian sports person. I Googled her and yeah, I would love to have that conversation on air.
Yeah, you should reach out. I just hadn't like we just communicated through Facebook, so I don't
Oh,
have
okay.
her contact or anything, but like I'm sure she would
Will
um
do.
do that. But I just talked to her the other day, and she sometimes goes dark, and
Yeah.
she's still healing. She's still, I mean, it's still relatively new for her. And she also works in for the CP Rail, which is, like a, I don't know, I can't think of the word, but she works for a railroad, which is I mean, classically, traditionally very masculine kind of
Right.
work.
As if
And
football wasn't enough.
you're right, right. So you have this gorgeous trans woman that's just out there, former professional football player, riding the rails, and um, yeah,
And
just being
you
her.
talked to her in a really effective episode about masculinity and toxic masculinity, which, to be clear, are two separate things. And just having that just glorious voice in the center of that episode, I really appreciated.
Yeah. And again, like she's someone that I connected with so much that like when I was doing the editing, it was like, oh my God, like I did not expect to like fall in love with people when I started this. And I'm like, oh no, like I cannot screw this up. And I want to, yeah, present these people in the best possible light.
Make sure that their stories are presented the way they would want. Yeah. And I
Exactly.
and I
Yeah.
you I can't say enough how well you do that in this series.
Oh, thank you
The
so much.
the center, the heart of it for me, and maybe just because I didn't know enough, is it's episode 5. I wanted to get the number right, which focuses on Indigenous people and the two-spirit culture of the Indigenous folks in Canada. And this again, for entirely separate reasons. I actually had to pause and walk away for a little bit, because we have the same stories here in the States of what happened to Indigenous cultures. Um, so, from what you learned,
Mhm.
what are Two-Spirit people? How does that tie into this whole theme of transness?
Yeah. So I like Two Spirit people, and so as I think both guests said, I don't know if I quoted both guests, but being indigenous, it's not a monolith. So there's different tribes, different families, different backgrounds. So Two Spirit might mean one thing to one group of people and not the other,
Mm,
but basically Two Spirit people are LGBTQ people, um, and some consider trans Two
yeah.
Spirit, some don't. Depends who you talk to in the community. It's all same umbrella, really. And that term is a relatively new term. I think it was in the 90s Tansy said that
Mhm.
this label was kind of invented and it was fitting. And I didn't realize, as a white cisgender middle-aged man, that I mean, I knew a lot of stuff that happened when Europeans came over and colonized Canada, and a lot of trauma and a lot of shitty things they did, including trying to, eradicate their culture, to sexual abuse in boarding schools and things. But something I never
The whole
considered was,
idea of forced boarding schools, of Christian schools taking kids away from their families in order to do that, in order to break up the
Mhm,
culture, is
yeah,
just abhorrent to everything I can think of as being decent.
right. And there's 200 years of that. And it's when I was a kid, I mean, there were still, those schools were still around.
Wow.
So I think the last one closed late 90s. So, you hear people that don't know what the hell they're talking about saying, "Oh, can't they just get over it?" It's like, well, no, this has been like 8, 9 generations of this. Like, it's gonna take 8 or 9 generations to heal. But one of the things I never considered was when Canada was being colonized, what that did to when it comes to LGBTQ issues within the Indigenous communities, because they did have people that were two-spirited. There was a different name then, but gender was not. It was not a. Oh my God, I can't think of the word now.
But it was in those cultures, because again, yeah, as you say, not a monolith. So in those cultures, there was a place for that. Different
Yeah,
different peoples had words for these different genders, and they had set roles that these
binary.
people.
That's what I was trying to think of.
There
Sorry.
you go.
Yeah, there was no binary. Yeah, when it came
Yeah,
to gender with
yeah,
these
it
people.
was you are where you are, and these were the people who officiated civic ceremonies, and I've read
They
in
were.
some
Yeah.
places that a king or a tribal leader was not able to go to war without consulting with the two-spirit person first.
Right,
And
right. They were very
yeah,
well
and
respected. They were leaders that
yeah,
because they had the perspective of more than just one side. They didn't have a binary. It was, they were kind of an all-seeing perspective, and that was just completely eradicated by colonization. And women had a much bigger role in society, much more responsibilities and respect. And so that was eradicated. And so
yeah.
now, yeah, their culture, I mean, changed a lot by now making it a patriarch and getting rid of a whole section of people. And they
Yeah.
did that through the church, through these schools. Like even the schools themselves, they separated boys from the girls, uh, forcing the binary. And yeah, it's that stuff as a straight person I never even considered. And yeah, that's one of my favorite episodes probably. I remember editing through that one and just being in awe again. Like I was like after those conversations, after recording, I was in awe. And then I sat down and edited. And I was just in awe again. And I actually reached out to Tansy. Was like, I just edited this episode, and thank you again. I'm just floored.
Well, I thought that episode was one where your perspective and Tansy's really harmonized well, is that
Mm,
you were able to make this experience, this lived experience that most people don't have, right? You can't be two-spirit unless you're an indigenous person. Something that is unfamiliar and inaccessible to most people, and you made it very accessible and brought it right to the heart. So I think
mm.
that right there makes that episode worth listening to.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean they're just both phenomenal people that I spoke with.
Yeah.
And another thing with Indigenous people in Saskatchewan, I mean Saskatchewan, I think it's what is it, like 70% of the population is in the bottom third of the province because the further north you go, the more isolated it is.
Yeah.
And Tansy's from a community that's pretty close to like Northwest Territories. Like it's it's
Wow.
very,
Yeah.
very isolated. There's like she said, it's the end of the road. Like if you go any further north in communities, you have to fly there. So to be indigenous, to be trans or two-spirited, and then to be isolated, I mean, I couldn't imagine the struggle.
Transqat is on the air. The program will be broadcast on WESU 88.1 FM, Middletown, Connecticut, beginning Tuesday, September 9th. Transqat has acquired the coveted 1 to 2 a.m. slot.
And there was much rejoicing.
You can listen either very late Monday night or ridiculously early Tuesday morning, depending on your perspective. It's an honor to be part of WESU's programming. The station's first official broadcast was on November 9th, 1939. That means they're only a few years away from their 90th anniversary. So, if you find yourself awake and within 90 miles or so of Wesleyan's Exley Science Center, tune in to WESU 88.1 FM.
It does. It speaks to an intersectionalism of, if you're a kid trying to work these issues out and you're in an urban school, you've got a lot of diversity to draw from, and you can say, oh, okay, yeah, that's where I am, and that's where I am. But if you are geographically someplace that remote, where do you go? Where do you look?
Yeah.
It actually, as you were describing this, I'm remembering that when I was a kid, if you needed to get information, you kind of went to encyclopedias because there was nothing else. And I remember coming across the word that we've been dancing around here, which was birdash, which is the way that, white people writing about this described what are now known as two-spirit people. And as it turns out, gosh, what a shock, it's an abuse of the language, because birdash refers to a very specific sexual role. It refers to a male who takes the receiving end of sex, and usually in a professional capacity, let's say.
Right.
And so referring to these people who, as you say, are the heart and the light of these cultures as that kind of a defamatory term. It was the term that the white people grabbed, but it's not right. And that's where two-spirit came out of. And I remember because I knew that word from when I was a kid, because I was desperately looking for anything that sounded like me.
And on the topic of translations, I also talked to a Lutheran pastor, and she described in the Bible, there is one, I don't know the Bible from the hole in the ground, but there is one section where that people constantly quote about how gays people are not accepted by God for what I don't know the quote.
I'm an abomination myself. I forgot to introduce myself as such at the beginning, but I'm an abomination.
Well, I mean, it's very punk of you. I love it. It's very rock and roll.
Yeah.
But yeah, that word, or however they translate it, it was in the 40s. They discovered that they actually mistranslated it, or I might be screwing this up. But anyway, the word was mistranslated.
Yeah.
And now linguistics go back and look at this word, and it's actually the actual translation is pedophile, not
right,
gay or whatever it is. So that's, I mean, these right-wing religious people that are always forcing this stuff on you. I mean, their entire base for doing this is false. It's completely, it's very frustrating. That was another great conversation. Was that with Lynn Robertson? She was just phenomenal.
She came in with a quote that devastated me, where she said, "We don't worship the Bible. We read the Bible through the lens of Jesus Christ." And I was like, oh, humanity in religion. Look at that.
Right.
Yeah, yes, this is scripture. Yes, this is, work that we believe is holy. But you've got to apply it to human situations. And it's not the Bible that takes precedence. It's God. Loved that.
I re-quote that in my last episode a few times because
Yeah.
it was just so good. And I mean, and people, yeah, people have their head up their ass. Like, you're telling me if Jesus was alive today, he'd be evangelical? Give me a fucking break.
He'd be
He'd,
helping
he'd
me
look
set
at
up
that.
for a pride event.
Yeah, exactly,
He'd be
exactly. I
setting
mean,
up the table with me, you know?
yeah, exactly, exactly. And that part, how can you not see that as someone that's worship? It's just like, what? Do you do you have no self-awareness? And
Well,
again, I said, like, practice what you want to practice, but when you're forcing it on other people,
yeah.
get the hell out of here. And I use the word
And
hell
that
a lot in that final episode on purpose.
But that brings us to where you land this, and that is that there's an underlying network of what drew the politics and the outing of these kids and the abuse of the indigenous folks and of Two-Spirit in particular. And you know, we don't believe in spoilers here at Transcat, but
Okay.
give us an idea of what the underlying connections were here.
Well, yeah. I want to, there's lots to listen to. So anything I'm saying now or I've said already, you're still going to learn and hear lots of stuff. So, but what I found was that a lot of these politicians that were making these decisions at the time, including education ministers, or I think they call them secretaries of
Yeah.
education in the States,
Yeah.
were evangelical. Their own kids were going to private evangelical schools. So their kids weren't even going to the schools that they were in charge of, public schools. And during that time, not only did they come up with this stupid Bill 137, they also started funding private religious schools 70% more than they had the previous budgets.
Mhm.
And public schools were getting, like, I think it was like 7 or 8% more. So I mean, they were pushing, they had an agenda.
Yeah.
They give it stupid names like parental bill of rights so that they fool people that aren't religious but are right winged to accept the laws that they want to force their religious beliefs on. And yeah, it's all very shady. It actually gave me the creeps. Like, when I was editing and researching, like, I was like, oh, this is like Handmaid's Tale stuff happening. You know, like, it gives me the
Yeah.
creeps. But it's also politics. And Scott Moe in the last while has seen that, you know, people aren't too happy with it. So he's kind of dialed back some of that. And there's now not an evangelical education minister in there, um, but yet they're still fighting in the courts about Bill 137. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, fingers crossed. You frame this series with sort of a question, and then you get to an answer at the end. And
Yeah.
the question essentially is, what is this trans agenda that I've heard so much about, that everybody seems to be so up in arms about?
Well, did you like how it ended? The final soundbite?
Loved it. That's what I don't want you to spoil things, but that's
Okay.
where I'm
Yeah.
pushing you to go.
Right. Again,
So
I'm
there
not.
is a trans agenda.
There is a trans agenda. There's absolutely 100% a trans agenda,
Mhm.
and it is alive and strong, and it is being forced on us. And it's not the trans people that it's not the trans people's agenda. There's a trans agenda, and it's politicians, it's religious right,
Mhm.
it's their agenda for trans people. The trans agenda is not set, not enforced by trans people. I'll leave it at that because you have to listen. There's more.
Yes.
And it's lovely and I love it. And the second I heard that quote, it was early on in my recording. I knew right then, this is how I'm ending the series.
There it is.
I
Yeah.
so I had a beginning and I had an end. And it's like, okay, now let's fill it
It's
in.
the perfect button. It really is, because it it
There
answers
was
the
joy in
question.
it too.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about it. I'm going to spoil it if we can.
Yeah, okay. I'm backing away. All right. Last question.
Yes.
Over your, wait a minute, that would be your left shoulder, is an A-team lunchbox.
Oh, yeah.
Your
If I could show you the
A-team
rest of my
lunchbox.
room, it's a lot like that. It's just so before, I mean, I was just diagnosed with ADHD a couple years ago, and I've had a lot of jobs, sometimes even self-employed. I've done a lot of artwork that's toured and stuff, and I like stuff. I don't know why, but if I like it, I have to have it. And at one point I did have an art gallery, and I did picture framing and stuff, and there was like collectibles and antiques and things involved in it too. And that A-team box was I don't know where, I could tell you where I got it from, but I just love it so much.
I pity the fool who doesn't like that lunchbox.
Brava.
Yeah. I've been saving that since we started talking.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this. This was
My
delightful. People,
Like I said,
tell people where they can find it. That's probably a good idea, right?
Sure. Yeah. It's on all the major platforms where you can find podcasts. It is, for some reason, it's hard to find right now because it is new, so it doesn't have all the listen, it doesn't have high numbers, so it's relatively new. It's Transgression, my search for the real trans agenda in Saskatchewan. I know Saskatchewan's a hard word to spell, but as long as you put real trans agenda, I'm sure it'll pop up. Oh, if you follow, I forget my Instagram. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
You'll find it, trans real agenda. And I mean, like I said, I've learned so much, but yeah, I just want to reiterate just how much I learned and how much my heart grew over these last 6-7 months, and just how many friends I've made, lifelong connections, and just people are missing out on something beautiful, and that's the LGBTQ community, because there's a lot of love in there, and it's just some of the sweetest, funniest people I've ever met.
Once again, links to the Transgression podcast are in the show notes. If you enjoyed this conversation with Todd, and I hope you did, consider checking out previous podcast-themed episodes. Episode 38 was part of a crossover event with the creators of Coming Hot Into the Box, a roller derby podcast with Slice and Carnage. Episode 50 was with Kyone Wolf, the host of Audacious. And episode 59 was a wonderful talk with some of the folks behind I'm Feeling Queer Today, a podcast produced by the Future Perfect Project. Up next on Transqat, we're commemorating Trans Day of Remembrance. On November 20th, we pause to remember those who have lost their lives to anti-trans violence. Human Rights Campaign lists at least 32 such deaths in 2024. 78% were people of color. 56% were Black trans women. 63% were killed with a firearm. 42% killed by someone they knew. And 38% were misgendered by authorities and or media after their deaths. I'll be speaking to Dr. Anthony Redgrave of the Transdo Task Force. They find and research unsolved cases involving the queer community.
Sometimes when people approach us and talk to us about what we do, they'll obviously get sad. They'll be like, "Oh, this is horrible. How do you deal with this?" The fact of the matter is, while this is a horrible reality, we're able to provide hope where there wasn't any before. So we can't change the fact that this has happened, but we can do is change how it's handled and give answers. So that in itself is hopeful. I'm actually wearing my hoodie right now. This is one of our mottos is hope dies last.
It's a conversation that is somber and intense, but that's appropriate to the subject matter. It is also lightened a little bit by the appearance of Anthony's cat, Grebo. Join us on Friday, November 21st. This has been Transqat. I'm Clare McCarthy. Thank you for listening, and let's talk soon.
This is Sadie McCarthy. I'm Claire's niece.
And you've just been listening to Transqat. It is made by one of my favorite people in the world, Clare McCarthy.
Transqat is a production of Transqat Enterprises, LLC.
Copyright 2023, all rights reserved.
Join us on the web at transqat.com.
That's TRANSQAT.com.
QAT.com.
QAT.com.
There you'll find links to Transqat, the blog,
writing projects,
speaking engagements,
and our PayPal donations page.
Please consider supporting our mission with your monkeys.
Monies.
Your monies.
Your monies.
Not monkeys.
Please consider supporting our mission with your monies. Any monkeys will be gratefully received as well.
Follow Transqat on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
On TikTok, we are at The Real Transqat.
Want to tell your story on air?
Or ask Claire a question?
What is the deal?
She has all the answers.
Or suggest a guest or topic for an upcoming episode.
Use the contact page at the website
or email her directly at crmtranscat@gmail.com.
crmtranscat@gmail.com.
And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Bye.